So today's topic is the pivot, and more specifically how you move your hips and your pelvis in the backswing. And we're going to show you the golf swing from a slightly different view that you might not have seen before. So thank you for joining me here at the Forest of Arden. Today we're talking about the pivot and more specifically how the hips and the pelvis move in the backswing, something which I think can help a lot of golfers. Just before we get started, if you're new to my channel, I would love you to be a part of it. There is a subscribe link down below and there is a clickable link at the end of the video if you'd rather wait for that. So for many golfers, improving their pivot can really improve many aspects of their game. If you can get the pivot moving better, we often see the golf club tracing around the body much better, and that can result in much more solid shots. I do spend a lot of time in my day-to-day coaching improving how a golfer's body works, and that very much works from the ground up. So if we can get the hips working, we often see the upper body on top of that working much better as well. So to really understand what happens in the pivot, we need to use a camera angle which is maybe less used than it should be when we're looking at the golf swing. And it's this camera here. So we're going to be looking at the golf swing from behind here because it's a much better place to see exactly what those hips do and how they should move in the golf swing. We're specifically looking at the tailbone, which would be around about here, and we're looking at the right hip and how they function through the golf swing. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to stand here with 7 iron, I'm just going to hit a shot, and we're just going to have a look at it from that different camera angle. So this is just me attempting to hit my kind of stock standard 7 iron. And I'd be pretty happy with that. It's gone exactly where I wanted to. Strike was good, curve was pretty good, and that's, for me, a pretty good 7 iron. So what did we see from this camera here? Well, when we play that back and we show you, what you will actually see is both my tailbone and my right hip actually would move towards the target in the backswing. So they actually move towards the target. Now, if you look at my lead hip, my left hip, that doesn't move towards the target. So it's not me kind of sliding my hips towards the target. It's just that the way my pelvis works in this rotation, my hip and my tailbone work towards the target. Part of the reason for that is because my hips are rotating on this good angle. My right leg is starting to lose some flex. My left leg is starting to increase in some flex. And what this really enables me to do is in the second part of my backswing, it really enables me to kind of recenter my weight and ultimately get my weight about 80% into my lead side by the time that my left arm is around about halfway down, about parallel with the ground. And that's what we tend to see from the elite golfers. When the lead arm is parallel to the ground, they've got about 80% of weight into their trail side. How their hips work in that backswing, in that transition phase, plays a huge role in that. What do I tend to see from a lot of golfers? Well, I tend to see a lot of golfers making a movement off the ball this way. And so from here, it becomes incredibly difficult to get back onto that lead side quickly enough. We often see they do that, but it can be a little bit too late. So what I tend to find really helps golfers is actually just having that knowledge, just appreciating how those hips should move and what it should look like from that behind view. Because when you take your starting position, you can start to think about this right hip moving in a few different places. It starts to move behind you, it starts to move upwards, and it starts to move towards the target. So if I use this golf club to represent my hips, this being my trail hip, that's going to move back, up, and towards the target. That helps me create this good pivot in my lower body. It helps me get my upper body working much better above that. As we said a moment ago, it helps me get my weight left much earlier, which helps a lot of golfers, and it helps me then deliver the club to the ball in a much more successful manner. So using this camera angle is not something that we tend to do a lot. We don't really look at golf swings from this angle, but we see it in a very, very different way. And there's lots of things that we see from this angle that we don't generally see from the kind of typical down the line, face on angles that we used before. So improving your pivot can be very simply a case of appreciating what the movement should look like and starting to think about how you move your trail hip, your tailbone in that backswing. Definitely going to help you transition better and hit those iron shots much more crispy. I always get asked this question in the comments box, so this does apply for driver as well. We would just generally see a different starting position, we would generally see a different upper body position, but the same movement in the pelvis would apply to the driver. Hopefully that video helps a different way of looking at the pivot, but one that might give you a different view on it and maybe open your eyes to what you should be doing in your backswing to help you strike those irons a little bit better. Thank you very much for watching. Usual stuff is below, comments box, like button, and there's also a subscribe link, like we said at the start. Would love you to be part of the channel. More videos coming each and every week, helping you play some better golf, enjoy your golf a bit more when you get time out on the golf course. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.